Good evening and welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. Three big political debates coming up over the next 1 hour. Let's begin by telling you what they are. Debate number one, 2020 could be ending with ally trouble for Narendra Modi. You've got JDU in the east, in Bihar, and AIADMK in the south. Both these alliance partners are striking a discordant note. Is that a warning for Narendra Modi? Of course, the BJP does not need the support in terms of numbers. But what about the impression of taking consensus decisions? Debate number two, beyond Rahul's vacation vitriol, a lot has been spoken about him going on a vacation. There is a larger point that we need to talk about. A person has the right to go on a vacation. Let's not get into the vacation debate. The most important point over here is, what's the UPS survival plan come the next year in 2021? We are going to put that to debate on this show. And debate number three, there is a BJP versus Shiv Sena war happening via the agency, says the Shiv Sena. Actually, Sanjay Raut's wife is going to be appearing in front of the Enforcement Directorate in the PMC bank fraud case. Sanjay Raut says that the ED is an extension of the Bharatiya Janata Party. In fact, he also says, dekhein zara, kisme kitna hai dam. He tweets, he held a press conference. Shiv Sainiks also put a poster right outside the ED office with that text, Bhajapa Pradesh Karyalaya, in a way saying that this is a political extension of the BJP. So that Maharashtra, Maha-BJP Shiv Sena face-off is going to come up in just a short moment from now. But let's first quickly tell you and circle back to that first story. What exactly is happening with the BJP and its allies? Let's take a look at this report.
The year 2020 could be ending with ally trouble for Narendra Modi, JDU in the east and AIADMK in the south. In Bihar, as Nitish handed over party presidency to trusted aide RCP Singh, the party pondered over many issues. Criticizing the BJP's Love Jihad law was one of them.
लव जिहाद को लेकर के जो घृणात्मक, निंदात्मक और विभाजनकारी जो एटमॉस्फेयर तैयार किया जा रहा है, जनता लेकिन इसको अच्छा नहीं मानता.
It is believed that the party is responding to the BJP taking away 6 JDU legislators in Arunachal Pradesh, a move that has not gone down well with Nitish's party, which saw a shrunk voter base in the recently concluded Bihar elections. The JDU's Sunday meeting, an attempt to remind the BJP of the Atal doctrine when it comes to dealing with allies.
अरुणाचल प्रदेश का जो घटनाक्रम हुआ है, जिसमें से पार्टी के 6 विधानसभा सदस्य को भारतीय जनता पार्टी जीवन कराई गई है, उस पर पार्टी ने गहरा क्षोभ व्यक्त किया.
The BJP is playing down the rift. Central Minister from Arunachal, Kiran Rijiju, said that the alliance was fine and this was a local Arunachal issue. Leaders in Bihar too played down the issue.
दूसरे राज्य का मामला हम लोग को पूरी जानकारी नहीं है, हम लोग को इस पर टीका टिप्पणी नहीं करना चाहेंगे, लेकिन बिहार के अंदर भाजपा जदयू का जो गठबंधन है वो अटूट है और पूरे 5 साल नीतीश जी के नेतृत्व में सरकार काम करेगी.
Down south in Tamil Nadu, which is about to see its first electoral contest minus the patriarchs Jayalalitha and Karunanidhi, the AIADMK chose to remind the BJP who the big brother in the state is. Setting the record straight ahead of the Assembly polls 2021, the party said they will not share political space with the BJP. The AIADMK under EPS has been seen as sympathetic towards the central government. The party supported the centre in passing many crucial bills in parliament. A natural assumption was that an alliance was on the cards. First Shiv Sena, then Shiromani Akali Dal, and later the LJP. Though moving away of allies has not impacted the BJP's fortunes either in states or at the centre. But the ever-increasing list of upset allies is surely bad political optics. An NDTV Bureau Report.
So if this is bad political optics. You go purely by the numbers and the BJP has nothing to worry about. But should it worry? That's the big question. Let me now introduce our guest this evening, S.G. Surya, spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party in Tamil Nadu. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Surya. N. Ram, director of the Hindu Publishing Group. Pawan K. Verma, author as well as commentator. Lalita Kumaramangalam, director of the India Foundation and member of the BJP. Thank you very much, all of you all. This is an important discussion on how exactly should the drifting away of the allies be viewed. Ambassador Verma, I want to begin with you first. You've heard what the JDU leaders have been saying. Now, if I remember correctly, the date, 16th of June 2013, I saw the same murmurs of discontent in the Janata Dal United against the present day leadership of the Bharatiya Janata Party. And yet the JDU got back together. Now again, something similar. How seriously should this dissent be taken within the JDU?
Sanket, it's not about JDU. You have to understand the core of the issue. The BJP, I think because of two very emphatic victories, has now the conviction that it needs to be an imperialist and expansionist party in Indian electoral politics. This has led to the second assumption that in this process allies are largely dispensable but tolerable until useful. And this is quite clearly evident on the map, as you have yourself said. So the BJP believes that Mr. Narendra Modi as a mascot is sufficient to make it achieve its goals without the necessary wholehearted cooperation of its allies, and further that the allies can be ridden roughshod. If you just analyze it further, what is the problem with the JDU? I am no longer a member of the JDU, but I was, as you are aware. Mr. Nitish Kumar and the BJP fought the elections in Bihar together, but the BJP, as part, in my view, of a planned conspiracy, used Chirag Paswan to downsize Nitish Kumar in a manner that when the NDA forms the government, Mr. Nitish Kumar has to eat humble pie as being a junior ally, and then when the BJP says that it will fulfill its promise and make Mr. Nitish Kumar Chief Minister, it becomes a hollow promise, especially when soon thereafter it poaches quite successfully 6 of the JDU's MLAs in Arunachal Pradesh. So what is the message? That we have fulfilled what we said, but we have ensured that you are no longer Nitish Kumar as you wish to be in the state, and we are poised to take over the state with or without you. Similarly, if you look at the Akali Dal, the way the farmers' bill was brought in without adequate consultation, the manner in which it was passed in Parliament, the refusal to send it to a select committee where it could consult with stakeholders, it was an obvious affront to the Akali Dal, but the BJP's matrix, the calculation is that you have to ultimately see winnability on national terms where allies can be used but are dispensable. So there is a huge trust deficit. Equally with the Shiv Sena. So now we are now seeing the unfolding of a new political chapter where the BJP is planning to go solo and using allies until they are useful, and they can be ruthlessly
making them redundant
when they are not.
No, but then what do the allies do? I've got Afzal Abbas also, senior leader of the JDU, now with us. Abbas Sahab, would you like to respond? Here, Ambassador Verma feels that you are being used. आपकी पार्टी का इस्तेमाल किया गया एक सोची समझी रणनीति के तहत चिराग पासवान को खड़ा करके आपको कमजोर किया गया, और अब आपके पास और कोई चारा ही नहीं है, आपकी मजबूरी है बीजेपी के साथ रहना।
मैं पवन वर्मा साहब का कद्र करता हूँ, बड़े आदमी हैं, हम बड़े भाई की तरह हैं, हमारे पार्टी में रहे हुए हैं, राज्यसभा के सांसद हैं, उनकी अपनी सोच हो सकती है, लेकिन जहां तक मैं सवाल है कि ये सारी बातें जो इलेक्शन से पहले पूरी तरह वाजा हो चुकी थी कि नीतीश कुमार के नेतृत्व में चुनाव लड़ा जाएगा, लड़ा भी गया, और चाहे सीटों का शेयरिंग जो भी हो, सीट जितने भी जीत के भी आए, लेकिन मुख्यमंत्री नीतीश कुमार ही बनेगी, ये ओपन ट्रूथ है।
नहीं, अफजल साहब मुझे ये बताइए कि जेडीयू और बीजेपी का अलायंस, इज योर अलायंस रिस्ट्रिक्टेड टू ओनली बिहार और ऑल ओवर द कंट्री?
नहीं, बिहार के अलावा कई जगह हम लोग अलग अलग लड़े हैं। ऐसा नहीं है कि अब झारखंड में पिछले बार लड़े, हालांकि अपना परिणाम बहुत अच्छा नजर नहीं आया, लेकिन जहां तक आप अरुणाचल प्रदेश की जहां बात करें, 6 विधायकों के हटने के बाद वाकई ये दुखद है, इससे मैं इनकार नहीं करता कि ये नहीं होना चाहिए, क्योंकि बीजेपी हालांकि समर्थन था उसके बावजूद भी गए, तो इसमें केसी त्यागी साहब ने
आप एक बात बताइए, अगर आपका गठबंधन बिहार तक ही सीमित है तो अरुणाचल में वो कुछ भी करें, उसका आपके बिहार के रिश्ते पे क्या फर्क? इसका मतलब आप मानते हैं ना इट वाज अ नेशनल लेवल अलायंस?
एक सेकंड के लिए, नॉर्थ ईस्ट के हमेशा इतिहास के पन्ने को पलट के देख लिया जाए, कभी पूरा एक पार्टी पूरा टूट के कहीं और पार्टी में जाती है, वहां का एक ट्रेडिशन चला आता है, हमेशा देखा गया है, तो कोई नई बात नहीं है। हालांकि ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए था, मैं भी कह रहा हूं, और इसके पार्टी के राष्ट्रीय प्रवक्ता ने भी इस पे तनकीद किया है, इस पे कमेंट किया।
We're just going to pause the discussion on Bihar and quickly shift focus to Tamil Nadu, and then we can come back to Bihar if you so wish. Mr. N. Ram, I want to come to you now. First of all, a larger point, how do you look at alliance vis-a-vis the BJP, and particularly in the context of Tamil Nadu? Obviously, there must have been an expectation that the BJP will go, or the AIADMK will go with the Bharatiya Janata Party in the elections, upcoming elections. Now that very clearly is not happening. What is the calculation according to you?
I think it's very unstable so far as the AIADMK, BJP and even Rajinikanth are concerned. On the other side, the DMK has a very stable alliance in place. Of course, the seat allocation has to be negotiated and all that, but they have a strong alliance in place. When Mr. Amit Shah visited Tamil Nadu a little while ago, the AIADMK leaders said we are allies, but Mr. Amit Shah studiously abstained from saying anything on it, confirming or denying it. And recently, some second-level leaders of the AIADMK have been saying we don't want to go with the BJP. And everybody knows that Mr. Paneer Selvam and the Chief Minister, EPS and OPS are not exactly on the same page. And OPS, Mr. Paneer Selvam, is considered much closer to the BJP. Moreover, the AIADMK has, without any discussion with its so-called ally, has declared unilaterally that EPS is going to be the chief ministerial candidate, presumably of the alliance. And I don't think that's appreciated by the BJP. So tremendous disarray, confusion. And then Rajinikanth. I'm clear that he was very reluctant to enter the fray this time. He said he pleaded health issues. But now that he was hospitalized and there were severe fluctuations, his blood pressure, he's been advised bed rest, no physical exertion, and avoid meeting anybody because your immune system, the hospital has put out this release, and he has of course confirmed it earlier that his immune system is quite weak because he had a kidney transplant. So how on earth is Mr. Rajinikanth going to launch his party, and then he'll have to be on the front lines in the campaign and so on when his health clearly doesn't permit it. So nobody knows at this point what kind of alliance is going to take place on the other side, whereas the DMK alliance is strong and intact. The DMK, the Congress, however weak it is in the state, the left parties, VCK.
No, but then Mr. Ram, if we were to compare, if we were to compare this to the state of Bihar, I mean, look, let's draw parallel. Lalita Kumaramangalam, on one hand, you had a rock-solid alliance between the Congress, the CPI, as well as the RJD. And there was a very difficult, rocky alliance in Bihar between the JDU, the BJP, the LJP, whether it was in or out, nobody knew. And yet we all have seen what the result has been. So is a rock-solid alliance the foundation stone of or a guarantee that you will win?
Sanket, I think you know the answer to that. I don't think it's only alliances that are winning elections in India nowadays. Though one has to admit the Dravidian politics, the politics of Tamil Nadu is quite different from that of the politics of Bihar. Nonetheless, the Tamilian voter is more than capable of thinking for himself or herself and voting. Having said this, I think the Indian voter is beginning to vote in their own interests and their own personal interests. It's no longer just about politics or just about religion or just about, caste, delineations, these sort of differences. It's also about governance and deliverance of services. Most people did not expect Modi ji to come back with 303 seats in 2019, and I think post-electoral surveys were very clear that
let's come back to the larger national issue.
He delivered.
Yes, Narendra Modi has got 300 plus on his own.
But they're not the only thing that helped
the BJP has got 300 plus on its own, and I clearly remember when there was a meeting with alliance partners post the result.
Yeah.
There was very, very clearly a message sent out from the BJP that even though we are the single largest party, we are going to take care of all our pre-alliance commitments, and we will take care of all our alliance partners. A few years down the line, where are those alliance partners, Ms. Kumaramangalam?
Look, what happened in Maharashtra was not the fault of the BJP. Perhaps we trusted the Shiv Sena a bit too much, but we did trust them. You know what happened there. Even in Bihar, even though we are now we have more seats than the JDU. We had said that we'll fight the elections under Nitish ji and that he would be the CM. He is the CM. People may interpret the change in the deputy CM in many different ways, but that's, it's a democracy. Everybody has a right to interpret what happens in politics.
Do you feel, Ms. Kumaramangalam, this is exactly what an EPS fears? Is this exactly that instead of becoming a chief minister, obviously BJP immediately is not going to make major inroads in Tamil Nadu.
I don't think EPS has any such fear. Tamil Nadu, I said it at the beginning, Tamil Nadu is not Bihar. So there is a vast difference in the politics of Tamil Nadu from perhaps the rest of the country itself. Not just Bihar, but any other state in India.
Agreed.
And that is something that I think everybody who's here from Tamil Nadu will agree.
Absolutely.
The point is that politics is not a static thing. It moves, it changes. There was a time when the BJP had 21 allies and we ruled for 5 years. Now allies, many of them seem to want to stand on their own feet or make their own agreements either before or after elections.
The allies would choose to believe that they were standing on their own feet earlier.
Perhaps they felt they were not. That is a question you must ask the allies, not the BJP. The BJP is very clear that when we go into an election with an ally, we stand with them. Okay. What the ally does later on is really a question
Mr. S.G. Surya,
to them, not to us.
Let's go back to Tamil Nadu. Mr. S.G. Surya, see, my point is, when an EPS has to say, when the state government, when the AIADMK, the party has to go out and clarify to its people that we will not share office or we will not share political space with the Bharatiya Janata Party, it is definitely trying to send a message to people, no? How do you find yourself then?
After him, just let me come in for a minute there.
Yeah. To begin with, Sanket, it was same as OPS and EPS in a function that was held in Chennai in front of the Honorable Home Minister Amit Shah, have pledged support for the NDA alliance and also promised that the state will continue to fight under the same alliance in which we had fought the Lok Sabha elections. Now coming to the power sharing formula, who is the chief ministerial candidate formula, the problem here is the local media keeps asking the BJP leaders and BJP spokespersons, have you accepted EPS as the chief ministerial candidate? The problem here is BJP, which is leading the National Democratic Alliance, cannot go on about deciding things unilaterally. NDA has a parliamentary board through which we will have to accept and make it formal. And until that, we will not be able to confirm about the alliance chief ministerial candidate and other things. It is just a process. But that does not mean we are not part, ADMK is not part of NDA alliance, nor we have troubles and all those things. Look at the central and state coordination in Tamil Nadu for the last 3.5 years. the central government has sanctioned 11 medical colleges to the state of Tamil Nadu in just 1 year, last 1 year. This has never happened to any other state, even to a BJP ruled state.
No, Mr. Surya, while I agree with whatever you are saying, obviously you represent the BJP, you are going to talk about, you'll present the BJP side of the story. But the point is, what does an EPS fear that he has to come out and clarify to his people? Maybe Mr. N. Ram can weigh in on this.
Let me come in here.
Yeah, Ms. Kumaramangalam, I'm going to come back to you. Mr. N. Ram, can you weigh in? What's the insecurity? What's the fear?
I think there is a clear conflict of interest because the AIADMK and the DMK have been the dominant political forces for a long, long time. In fact, from 1967, no All India party or so-called national party has had a look-in on power in Tamil Nadu. Everybody knows that. And today, and you know what happened in the Lok Sabha election in Tamil Nadu. Maybe some changes since then, but right now. So the BJP, I don't think, is looking to make huge inroads. Whatever they claim formally in public, inroads this time in 2021, probably they're looking at 2026 in the assembly elections and laying because they do play the long game, and particularly the RSS. So I think right now the confusion is Mr. Amit Shah, being a senior BJP leader, did not confirm the existence of an alliance. This is a fact. It's not a concoction by the media. That's very, very important.
How do you expect them to play along?
And secondly, Sanket, there have been these noises. I think the AIADMK feels that an alliance, or sections of the AIADMK feel an alliance with the BJP is not going to be an advantage to them in this election. At least this time. However, they will keep good relations with the center. But those two things are different. Even an opposition party in power can have good relations, normal relations with the central government, whoever is in power there. But an alliance is a different thing because, as Ms. Kumaramangalam said, my friend, that Tamil Nadu Dravidian politics is quite different. And it's not going to change overnight.
It won't change
Rajinikanth, moreover, there's a big question mark over what he's going to do.
That's another question, whether too much is being read into Rajinikanth's political foray, or is he actually a force to reckon with? That is also a debate, but we'll have that debate sometime later. Ambassador Verma, very quickly, 2021, do you feel that the BJP is going to lose more allies and be okay with it? Or should they really worry about, an image correction among alliance partners?
My good friend Lalita ji, being an honest spokesperson, put her finger on it. She said politics is not static. So at one time the BJP had 21 allies. If the BJP feels that allies are largely dispensable, there is a point in which allies will also say that the BJP support in winning a regional election, I am not talking of parliamentary elections right now, but ultimately it will impact parliamentary elections also. If the feeling emerges that the BJP does not wish for any footprint other than its own to extend to as many parts of India as possible, I'm afraid it is not going to convince allies. By the way, the NDA parliamentary board has been a complete tokenism. Hardly any discussion. Allies' views are hardly sought. Meetings are held perfunctorily and briefly. That's my information. I may be wrong.
No, but Ambassador Verma, this is the same dream that Congress also had after their 207, 209 that they got in 2009. The Congress also hoped, I remember, newspaper clippings from 2009, 2010, where Rahul Gandhi was reportedly telling congressmen that we must aim at increasing our score and reducing dependence on alliance partners. So for a political party to think of increasing its base and reducing its dependence is normal. It's organic.
No, I think you're right, except that, as our great ancestor Chanakya said, don't pursue policies that can rebound on you in terms of your own interests in the medium and long term. So I think that if the BJP's policies are, to quote a couplet from Zauq, "Dunya mein kiska raah fana ne diya hai saath, तुम भी चली चलो यूं ही जब तक चली चले. If this is their policy, that you are only valid up to, you have an expiry point as far as allies are concerned, then I think allies also learn the same lesson.
Okay, okay, interesting. Ms. Kumaramangalam, I'm going to come back to you. Please, you as well as Mr. N. Ram, do stay on with us. Thank you very much to the rest for joining us on this discussion. Number one, now let's talk about the opposition. See, this is a year-ender political debate that we are having. So, across all networks, Twitter platforms, you see a discussion around Rahul Gandhi going on a vacation. The crime that he has committed to go on a vacation. Politically, whether this is a relevant thing to do at a time when your party is celebrating the 136th Foundation Day, well, the jury is out on that one. But the larger question, which we are going to debate on NDTV, what's the UPA's survival plan in 2021? Will there be a Gandhi at the helm, or there will be no Gandhi? Or will there be a third force? Maybe a Mr. Sharad Pawar. He has denied that he is coming to the centre, playing a larger role in the UPA. By the way, he is touching 80. He is 80. So what really is the plan, the survival plan of the UPA, the United Progressive Alliance? Or just like the NDA, is the UPA 2 something which soon will not exist? Let's quickly put this to a discussion. Mr. N. Ram and Lalita Kumaramangalam continue to stay with us. In just a short moment, we'll have Mr. Mahesh Tapse, he's the NCP spokesperson, and Amiben Yagnik, Rajya Sabha MP of the Congress party. But before I come to them for a discussion, here are some reactions to this story that we got through the day.
To seeing a grandmother is a wrong thing. Every person has the right to have a personal visit or personal matters. Rahul Gandhi, of course, he already requested Congress President, he need to go to Italy for seeing his grandmother. When the Congress President has given permission to that. What BJP is doing, you can understand. Only target Rahul Gandhi. They are doing low-level politics.
किसानों को कह देते हैं कि वीर तुम बढ़े चलो और आप विदेश बढ़ जाते हैं. फिर आप कह देते हैं राष्ट्रपति भवन जाते हैं, जो सिग्नेचर देकर आते हैं, उस सिग्नेचर के प्रामाणिकता पर देश में सवाल उठ जाता है और आप विदेश चले जाते हैं. अगर राजनीति जो है वो समाज सेवा है. विपक्ष के जो नेता होते हैं उनकी हर बात को जिम्मेदारी से देश भी लेता है, लेकिन अगर आप अपनी बात को ही जिम्मेदारी से नहीं लेंगे तो आपको मुबारक हो.
Kumaramangalam, you heard Mr. Shahnawaz Hussain. Of course, the BJP will love a political opportunity like this. I mean, this is like a gift that has landed, for the BJP. But Ms. Kumaramangalam, the larger point. Okay, I'm going to go back to Ms. Kumaramangalam in just a short moment. But Mr. Ram, how do you view this? The Congress party's dilemma, their fix. That on one hand, you've got a party which can't think beyond the Gandhis. And then on the other hand, you've got a Gandhi who says, I don't want this opportunity, or I do not want this, this title. Where does this leave the opposition or the UPA?
I think I would respect Rahul Gandhi's genuine feelings on this. He has not put himself forward in any way. Remember, Sanket, after 2009, after the Congress, after the UPA's victory, Dr. Manmohan Singh, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, invited Rahul Gandhi to join the cabinet, and no. So I think it's not his fault, but the party is confused, demoralized, and in many states it's not a player, not a serious player, and that's going to be its problem. It's got to figure this out. I wouldn't put the blame on Rahul Gandhi or his vacationing, or he's a part-time politician and all that. That really is, vulgarizing the what's happening today. You rightly said earlier that you're not going to discuss the vacation and so on.
We won't.
But the leadership issue is a problem. It's not. You can't place the responsibility or blame at the door of just the Gandhis, whether it is Sonia Gandhi, who was quite reluctant to come in, or Rahul, but. They shouldn't let the party stay in this state of confusion for too long. That's not going to be good. And meanwhile, there has been a clear decline in many states, especially above all in Hindi-speaking states. Also in West Bengal, for example, where both the Congress and the left have declined in a dramatic way in recent years. So I think they've got to figure this out, and
but Mr. Ram,
treating any critical questions as disloyalty and all that, I think won't fly today.
Two parts to my next question, Mr. Ram. Number one, if we talk about UPA, should Congress be at the center of what we conceive as the UPA? And secondly, if that is the case, then should that Congress be headed by a Gandhi? Now, it's very clear, people have written reams about the Congress only succeeding if the Gandhis step aside. You've got a very famous Ramchand Guha write-up also on it. But the point is, can you imagine this Congress minus a Gandhi?
Not in the immediate future. I think there'll be a tremendous pressure on somebody, if not Rahul, then Priyanka. I'm just speculating. But that's the state of the party. It's been brought up like this. It's been raised like this for the last several decades.
Yeah.
And the answer is, yes, it has to be at the center or at the head of the UPA because, with all this weakening, it is still the single largest opposition party.
True.
You can say that in this state, some party has more and so on, or even numbers. But the Congress is spread out all over the country or in most parts of the country.
Yeah.
And therefore, in the UPA, it is the natural leader. I think everybody would agree on that.
Yeah.
But party needs leadership, and I think this delay has been very costly. They should have taken it on an urgent basis.
And where does all of this leave the UPA, the United Progressive Alliance? Amiben Yagnik is with us, and so is Mahesh Tapse, NCP spokesperson. Ms. Yagnik, at the Congress headquarters today, when the 136th Foundation Day was being celebrated or observed, there were quiet murmurs, obviously, that did not catch the media attention or glare, of a lot of people saying and talking about Rahul Gandhi. In fact, there were jokes flying around. Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan, Jai Milan is one of them.
Amiben Yagnik,
so. How?
No, I understand what you are trying to ask, but the question here is that there is a sudden emergency in the family, and if Rahul Gandhi had to go
I will not come. I'm just saying what was being discussed inside the Congress office by congressmen. My debate is not on where he is.
Yes.
He's perfectly entitled to do whatever he's doing.
I haven't heard any of these, but the fact remains that every time something is there as far as the Congress Party's Foundation Day is concerned or some other program is concerned, we try to see that the whole debate concentrates on this issue, which is absolutely a non-issue in a sense, because
how? Ms. Yagnik, tell me, who's your leader right now?
So many. Well, we have Mrs. Sonia Gandhi.
Who's your permanent leader right now? She's interim president, Ms. Yagnik.
Interim president, but she is the president and she is very much in charge of the party. She is taking meetings. She is speaking to the people. You have seen her conferences, her meetings and her addresses on the social media. So you can't say that who is your leader. She is very much there. But right now, Rahul Gandhi is not the president. He is the former president. And if he has gone on a personal visit, why we don't go to see our grandparents?
No, absolutely. That is why, Ms. Yagnik, that is why I never wanted to put that to debate. That is not a debate. The debating point is what's the future of the opposition space? Do you look at yourself in a leading position in 2021 or 24?
No, Sanket, it should not be a matter of debate because we are a culture, an Indian culture, where we look after our old parents. We visit our old parents.
I'm not even asking that question.
Let us not debate on that.
Not debating. Not debate. That's exactly what I'm saying. Please? I'm asking about your political future, the future of the opposition. Do you think that the UPA is going to stay together? Who will be at the helm of the UPA? Do you think that Mr. Sharad Pawar, who's older than Sonia Gandhi, is going to be the one who will take the charge? There are a lot of murmurs in New Delhi.
Right. Let the UPA allies decide that. Today we are in a situation whether the allies in the ruling dispensation are going to deliver the promise that they promised to the people of this nation. Why are we talking about an opposition which has a combination of allies? We should talk about the governance model.
Sure.
We are having pressing issues today. Unemployment, the farmers, the safety and security of women, and especially post-pandemic, the education of the children.
Okay, Lalita Kumar Mangalam wants to come in now. Yes, Ms. Yagnik, we have heard from you. Lalita Kumar Mangalam. I am repeating once again, the debate is not on Rahul's vacation or the vitriol around it. The debate is on the future of the UPA.
I agree. But the fact is that Rahul has every right to do whatever he wants, go whenever he wants, wherever he wants, right? But the point is that he's also the part of the family that has, in a way, brought up the Congress or brought down the Congress to the state where everything is dependent on that one family. And as Mr. Ram pointed out, like it or not, the Congress is still the single largest opposition party in Parliament and in the country, with branches all over the states and every state. There has been a fair amount of criticism, as you know, from some of their own very senior leaders. But apparently, most congressmen don't seem to have the courage to be able to take the bull by the horns. Now, in a democracy, an opposition is very necessary. And it's, I think, even though I'm in the BJP, and for us, the longer the Congress is in this sort of disarray, it is good for us. But the fact is that a country needs an opposition. And I wish they would get their act together. Like Mr. Ram said, yeah, it's the fault of the Gandhis, but not only the Gandhis. I wonder why, when there are a fair amount of fairly competent people in the Congress, and especially, I think, in the younger generation, there are many people, they are not being given a chance. It's the same old guard that's still trying to rule the roost. And I think it's not just the Congress, it's the people who are losing faith in Congress. I think the Congress themselves, many of them are losing faith in their own organizational ability. In the BJP, we are made to slog everybody, top to bottom, we work. I mean, we really work at the grassroots at
I'm going to have to give Ms. Yagnik a right to reply.
Seem to have that sense at all.
Sure,
A party is built on blood, sweat and tears.
Not a sense of entitlement.
And where is it being shown?
Okay,
yes,
okay. The same old point, the BJP has made this point in the past also, hard work versus sense of entitlement. Ms. Yagnik, you will get your right to reply. You will get your right to reply to this. But Mr. Mahesh, from the NCP, I want to bring you in. As a key constituent of the UPA, where do you see yourself and what role do you see Mr. Sharad Pawar playing? A lot has been said about him taking charge.
Hello, Mr. Sanket, and thank you for having me on your show. First of all, let me tell you that the UPA is absolutely intact. The UPA leadership has taken care that everybody, all the constituents of the UPA are being respected within the UPA. And whatever rumors are being floating, I don't know who has put these things, and we presume that it has been planted by some vested interest to create some kind of a rift within the UPA. But let me assure you that the relations between the Congress party and the NCP...
Okay, let's put that aside. Now about the future of the UPA. In 2021 or 2024, what is the calculation of the NCP? Do you see Congress remaining at the center of the UPA, or do you think that other key constituents must join and take over?
I see that in 2024, the UPA might actually form the government, because this NDA government might fall because of the weight of the BJP. So you cannot predict. I mean, see what happened way back in 2004, and suddenly the UPA was in power for the next 10 years, and again 2014 we are out of power. So you can never say
that UPA, by the way, that Congress had a strong leader in Sonia Gandhi at the helm for a very long time.
See, Congress, we are a follower of the Congress. So I will not say that NCP ideologically is separate from the Congress. So Congress has a ever churning process of generating leadership. We have seen people who are sarpanchs and they have rose to take the position of chief ministers of states and also union ministers. So, leadership is a continuous process, and within all the constituents, all political parties, whether it's the BJP or the Shiv Sena or the NCP or the Congress, leadership keeps on developing over decades.
That's exactly my point. Is the leadership developing?
I do not see a dearth of leadership within the UPA constituents, but I'm sure that every leadership has a cycle. So does Mr. Modi has a cycle. So does my leader, and so definitely other leaders. But that doesn't mean that new leaders are not groomed.
Okay. I'm going to very quickly give Ms. Yagnik her right to reply. Ms. Yagnik,
let me speak for my party.
Sure.
My party ensuring that newer generation of leaders are groomed at the tehsil level to the state level, and I'm sure that we'll, in the next 2024 elections for the Lok Sabha, we'll have a newer set of leaders, younger set of leaders, more vibrant set of leaders, and we are confident that the electorate of the country will overthrow the NDA government.
Okay. Ms. Yagnik, you're right to reply to what Ms. Kumara Mangalam had to say. and the assessment of Mr. Enram.
No, it is really heartening to know that only one party slogs and sweats, and that's the BJP, as if other parties, workers and people just don't work hard. But maybe she's referring to the times of Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Advani ji, because she knows the present model of the BJP working. So let's not get into that. Everyone knows about it. And as you know that there's a cycle and leaders come and go, but you have not fulfilled your promise to the nation. See, the nation is a very different kind of an entity. We have so many rising issues, and the question which you're asking to the UPA should right now be, we should be asking to the NDA, because the allies are just going away. They are with the farmers. They are breaking away from the present NDA alliance and the NDA entity. So this is a question you should be asking to the NDA and not asking to the UPA. The UPA is as strong as ever. It is trying to bring the issues to the forefront. It is trying to show the mirror to the present dispensation that look what you promised and what you're giving to the people of our country. These are the people who voted you
Ms.
to power.
Yagnik, I have a question. I have a question. When you say that the UPA is strong as ever, what are the quantifiables? When you say that it is strong as ever?
It is definitely giving a fight to the present NDA alliance. It is not delivering on its promises. Okay. It has to become an election machine rather than a delivery machine to the people of this country. Especially when there is a worst economic slowdown in the country in the past decade. The future is absolutely uncertain for the children of the next generation. Well, youth are looking for jobs. You are not looking at all these disappearing factors.
I've run out of time, but we can just say for 2021, good luck to you, Ms. Yagnik, as well as Ms. Kumara Mangalam. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're stopping for a short break at this moment. And when we come back, we'll get you the third political debate, BJP versus Shiv Sena. And the Shiv Sena says that this is happening via the agencies, using ED and CBI. That face-off between the Shiv Sena and the BJP, two old allies who are friends turned foes, are going to face off in just a short moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. So there is a Maharashtra or a Maha face-off taking place in the state between the Shiv Sena and the BJP, two old allies who are friends turned foes on different and opposite sides. But this time around, Shiv Sena leader Sanjay Raut says that play the game fairly with us. Don't involve the family. And now that you have, he says, "Aa dekhen zara kisme kitna hai dam." Now, is it really a case of the BJP playing it dirty using agencies? Or is there actually a strong case against Mr. Sanjay Raut and his family? Sanjay Raut versus what he says is the BJP's ED. A very interesting thing that was done by the Shiv Sena today. They pasted a poster with the text Bhajpa Pradesh Karyalay or the BJP state office right outside the Enforcement Directorate Mumbai office. So is it a case of Sanjay Raut versus BJP's ED? That Maha face-off is going to begin in just a short moment. Let's listen in to what the leaders said in Maharashtra.
तो हम सबको टाइट कर देंगे शब्द है और ये सरकार हम गिराएंगे। मैंने कहा हिम्मत है तो गिरा के दिखाइए। और मेरे पास ऐसी लिस्ट है जो ईडी के लिए अगर कुछ काम नहीं होगा तो 5 साल तक मेरी लिस्ट पर ईडी काम करते बैठेगी। इतना मेरे पास मसाला मैं भेज रहा हूँ, मैं नहीं डरने वाला। उनको भी पता चलेगा किससे पंगा लिया है।
असं आहे की मी काही ईडीचा प्रवक्ता नाही आहे, हे तुम्ही ईडीला विचारलं पाहिजे। चांगलं काम केलं तर कोणी कोणाला नोटीस मिळत नाही। त्याच्यामुळे जर चांगलं काम केलं असेल आणि काही कुठलाही त्यात चूक नसेल, कोणी घाबरण्याचं कारण नाही। नीट जाऊन त्याला उत्तर देता येतं। आता मिळाली कोणाला नाही मिळाली हे मला माहिती नाही, कारण मी त्यातला प्रवक्ता नाही।
Asif Bamla, spokesperson of BJP Maharashtra, as well as Sanjay Gupta from the Shiv Sena. Thank you very much to the two of you for joining us. Gupta ji, मैं सबसे पहले आपसे पूछना चाहता हूँ, क्यों ऐसा शिव सेना को लगता है that central agencies are being used to target your leaders? I mean, if the probe, if the leader has nothing against him, he'll come out clean.
वो ठीक है, लेकिन अगर आप देखेंगे तो आपको पता चलेगा कि जो ट्रांजैक्शन है 10 साल पुरानी है। पीएमसी का घोटाला पिछले साल हुआ है, ट्रांजैक्शन 10 साल पुरानी है। इससे साफ पता चलता है कि ये पॉलिटिसाइज मामला है और कुछ भी नहीं है। तो इसलिए इस बात को कहा जाएगा क्योंकि आप ये देखिए कि जिस शिवसेना ने 30 साल तक ये चाहा कि केंद्र में बीजेपी की एक स्ट्रॉन्ग सरकार बने, अपनी 3 पीढ़ियां दे दी, आज उसी बीजेपी के प्राइम मिनिस्टर को बनने के बाद, केंद्र में सरकार बनने के बाद, आज वो केंद्रीय एजेंसियों को उसी पार्टी के खिलाफ यूज कर रहे हैं और बल्कि उनके परिवार के खिलाफ यूज कर रहे हैं। आप देखिए, अब ये दूसरे हमारे एमएलए थे, उनके बेटे के खिलाफ ईडी का सम्मन हुआ, आज संजय राउत जी की वाइफ के खिलाफ सम्मन कर दिया। मतलब अब ये इतना गिर चुके हैं कि अगर जितना त्याग शिवसेना ने किया, पूरे वर्ल्ड के अंदर ऐसी कोई पार्टी नहीं होगी जिसने 30 साल तक सैक्रिफाइस किया हो सत्ता के साथ, केंद्र की सत्ता के साथ, कि हम केंद्र में कोई मंत्रालय लेंगे, कुछ नहीं लेंगे। और बीजेपी का प्रधानमंत्री हमेशा ये चाहा हो, और 30 साल के बाद जब ये एम पूरा हो भी जाए तो उसके बाद कोई पॉलिटिकल पार्टी इस तरह से उसी के साथ करे, तो मेरे ख्याल से देखने वाले यही कहेंगे कि जाकर कहीं चुल्लू भर पानी में डूब के मर जाए, तो चुल्लू भर पानी भी ये कहेगा कि नहीं यार, मुझे माफ करो, आप कहीं कीचड़ में ही चलो।
Okay. A point has been made. Politically loaded statements by Mr. Sanjay Gupta. Of course, he seems to be a little agitated with what is happening. But Mr. Asif Bhamla, you've heard the reaction of the Shiv Sena. I want your response. Mr. Sanjay Gupta says that some of these transactions that took place were 10 years old and they had nothing to do with the PMC scam. Why bring them up now? If there is not a political motive, then what is?
You see, it's very unfortunate that it's the second black Diwali, or I would say a black Christmas, that the account holders of the PMC banks are witnessing, and it's a very serious issue that needs to be addressed. And after all, it is the RBI which is asked to scrutinize this for a fraud and for a misrepresentation of bad loans. So, I mean, I don't see why one has to play the victim cards. And as Devendra ji said, if everything is fine and if he's called, I mean, this is the second, I think 2 previous times Mrs. Raut was called and she did not attend, and this is the 3rd time she has been called. And if everything is fine, I think I have an audio problem.
Yeah. Mr. Gupta is trying to respond to what you're saying. Mr. Gupta, बताइए, आपने सुन लिया जवाब?
Is my audio clear? No, I want to
absolutely clear. Mr. Bhamla, absolutely clear.
नोटिस भेजने से शिवसेना को ईडी का नोटिस भेजने से नहीं पड़ता, लेकिन इस मामले में आपने भेजा है, जिनको भेजा है, 10 साल पुराने ट्रांजैक्शन में आप ईडी की जांच करते हैं।
There is some problem with the audio.
Yeah, Mr. Bhamla, I can hear you fine. Please go ahead.
आप उसको 10 साल पुराने ट्रांजैक्शन से जोड़ रहे हैं, जवाब नहीं है आपके पास।
No, now the issue here is you see, if they have to explain this issue, and I don't know why. I mean, this has always been put across that the machineries, the agencies have been used. If you remember, in the Sara chit fund, Mukul Roy of the BJP, who is the vice president who represents West Bengal, he was also summoned. So law is the law; it can't operate in and within the whims and fancies of an individual.
Yeah, but then now, see again, Mr. Bhamla. Now that you have said what you have walked right into a trap.
Whenever I am talking, my friend Mr. Gupta is interfering, and I can't. I mean, it's
yes.
This is
Okay, one moment.
And I'm having a bad audio too.
Sure. So now, can you hear me?
Him to speak.
Can you hear me now? Can I ask you a question? When you brought in,
I am still on a bad volume. I don't know. I think my telephone audio should be okay, but it's okay now.
Oh yeah, Mr. Bhamla. The point very simply is that. I'm glad you mentioned Mr. Mukul Roy. See, in West Bengal, what is happening is that there is a conversation that the moment a tainted person joins the BJP, he automatically becomes clean. So BJP is some sort of a washing machine. This is the allegation of the TMC. Now Mukul Roy has no allegations against him, or the cases have gone slow.
He has been summoned. There are he has not been given a clean chit as of yet, and the law will take its own course. And still, if someone feels in the opposition, that things are not doing fine, they can go with legitimate proof to the court.
Sure, Sanjay Gupta, आपका जवाब. Sanjay Gupta of the Shiv Sena, you can reply.
Against the agencies, they can go to the court, and I'm sure they would be they will get the justice.
कि 10 साल में जिन भी लोगों ने ट्रांजैक्शन बैंक से की है क्या सभी को आप नोटिस भेज देंगे?
That's not right.
आप मुझे सिर्फ इतना बता दीजिए आसिफ बामला जी, आप मुझे सिर्फ इतना बता दीजिए कि 10 सालों में जिन भी लोगों ने ट्रांजैक्शन की होगी, चाहे बीजेपी का हो चाहे आम आदमी चाहे कोई भी हो, क्या सबके घर में उनके परिवार वालों को आप नोटिस भेज देंगे ईडी का? सीबीआई में इंक्वायरी में लगवा देंगे आप उन सबकी? पीएमसी घोटाला हुआ था पिछले साल में, ट्रांजैक्शन 10 साल पुरानी है, क्या 10 साल में जिन लोगों ने ट्रांजैक्शन की सभी घर ईडी का नोटिस दे दोगे? फिर कहोगे अरे अरे जांच ही तो कर रहे हैं, जवाब ही तो देना है, ईडी के ऑफिस में ही तो आना है। क्या ये कोई आम बात होती है क्या किसी इन्वेस्टिगेशन में जाकर के अपना जवाब देना? आप मुझे इतना बता दो।
मिस्टर बामला, योर रिप्लाई।
देखिए, सीबीआई को पिछली सरकार में सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने लथाड़ा था कि इट इज अ केज्ड पैरेट, अगर आप ये बात समझे तो। नंबर 1। नंबर 2, मेरा ये कहना है कि you see, these agencies are independently working, and if someone is summoned, and if it is not a very major transaction, if the state does scrutinize on something, if the state if the agencies from the state scrutinizes something, then it is called transparency. And if the central agencies take up an issue, you're calling it vengeance. So if you're in the opposition and if there's an issue, so the agency should not call you. Should they not, address the issue and that too of the largest ever middle class scam that has happened, in which more than 10 lakh people have been affected. So if that is not addressed, then you have a problem. If that is addressed, then you play a victim card, and then you so I don't see where do we go from here. You see, you have to have a structure, a federal structure in the country, and you can't just do things or propose things.
Okay. Hard stop on this. Sanjay Gupta as well as Asif Amla, I'm going to go for a hard stop on this discussion. The wife of Sanjay Raut has been summoned to the Enforcement Directorate office tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see whether she will go or not, and how is this story going to politically play out. It's not just about the agencies. These scripts play out politically. And I'm saying this very, very responsibly. Mr. Bamla as well as Mr. Gupta, thank you so much for joining us. It's a wrap in this edition of Left, Right and Centre. News continues on the other side. Stay with us.